Hey, welcome to Divinely Uninspired. This is Rusty. I'm here with Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, guys.
Hello. And also here with April. April, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I like your shirt.
Thank
I
you.
just saw that. I was like, come on.
So I was just telling April out in the hallway before we got started that I've got a new game, and we're not going to play it today because I had an epiphany last night, but we're going to play a game. Would April buy this? And she's going to have a list of things that I'm going to send her pictures, and then you have to decide, would she buy them? And the thing is, they're all going to be like cheesy Jesus things.
I love it. And here's the thing. If I win that game, I get to pick a shirt out for April and she has to wear it on a Sunday morning.
I like it.
Nope.
It's my choice.
No, absolutely not. My shirts are awesome, Jeremy.
This will be an awesome shirt, I promise.
Yeah, when I was in Mexico, we had a flea market, and we would go over there, and there was this guy that his motto was, "Come into my store. I have everything you don't need." And that's the way I feel about Hobby Lobby. Come into my store. I have everything you don't need, or in Jeremy's case, want. We got a lot to talk about today. Before anything else, let's hear the song. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're listening to Divinely Uninspired, podcast by Journey Church Shepherdsville, hosted by Jeremy Willis and me, Rusty Wilson. You can find us online at journeyshepherdsville.com. For questions or comments, email podcast@journeyshepherdsville.com. Maybe we'll feature your question or comment on a future episode. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the show. So I just got a new TV, and it's probably sinful how big it is. It was delivered this morning at 6 a.m. I ordered it from Amazon, and they said they would be there between 6 and 9. They didn't tell me they would be 6:01, so I had to get up like way earlier than I expected to. But it's been my dream to have a huge TV because I love to watch TV. And so this morning, I just wanted to kind of talk about some of our favorite TV shows that are on. And these are new TV shows. Don't be throwing Cheers at me. Which, Spencer, if you don't know what Cheers is, it's a show from the 80s about a bar. And Spencer's our youth minister, and he doesn't know.
We still need to play that game where we come up with TV shows. In fact, he should be a guest one week, and we do TV shows and movies and just give him the title, and he has to think of the plot.
Yeah, we're going to do that in October because he's got some stuff coming up in October, and we'll look forward to that. So I've been watching this show with my wife. It's called For All Mankind. And
I love that on Apple TV. It's really good.
It's really good, and it's this idea. It's the whole concept. It's like historical fiction. What if Russia had beaten the United States to the moon? And it goes way beyond that. Like, you know, they start looking at building moon bases and finding water on the moon and all this. But it's really interesting, and it's really crazy to kind of look at the perspective of how big of a deal the space race was, because we weren't around for it. So yeah. It was like a major thing, the idea of we have to be there first. So
yeah, I love that actor. I can't think of his name right now.
Joel Kinnaman.
Yeah, the show he was in, The Killing. Did you ever watch The Killing? Yep. That was so good. And he was RoboCop.
He was Rick Flag and
he's
Suicide
in Suicide Squad. Yeah. Another show you might like along that premise is, have you ever seen The Man in the High Castle?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's basically the idea is if we had lost World War I or World War II, I can't remember which one it was.
Two.
World War II. What would have happened and all that stuff is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, we started that, and we just kind of...
Yeah, I gave up on it, I'll be honest. But it was cool at first.
Yeah, the first season's great. Go check out the first season, but quit after that. But anyway, April, do you have any shows?
Oh, and of course, real quick, Ted Lasso. I mean, we always talk about it, but we might as well mention it. Season 2.
Season 2 has been amazing.
Yeah.
It starts phenomenally. Kind of gruesome, but it starts really well. But
and Brene Brown got a shout out, and now she's a big fan of Ted Lasso. So like my favorite author and my favorite show, they met together. So
yeah, and we don't want to give anything away, but Ted is having a hard time season 2.
Yeah.
So do you have to have an Apple TV, I guess, to watch this stuff, or can you watch it on different platforms?
Yeah, you have to have an Apple brand television.
Well, no, now on Roku, you can, go buy you an Apple brand television.
Okay, whatever. You know what I meant.
It's called an ITV.
I'm going to smack you guys. Okay, I was just curious because I haven't seen any of this. You can download
any smart TV app, or you can watch it on your phone or your iPad.
Yeah.
And you can't watch it on your phone. Never mind. You have an Android.
That's right.
But on your iPad or your computer.
I don't even have an iPad.
What do you have? Do you
I
not
have a phone, a Galaxy, and I have my computer.
You use like a Palm Pilot?
No, I just use my phone.
Oh, okay. That's a small phone. You don't have a tablet of any kind?
No, I'm not bougie like you guys.
Yes, you are.
Maybe, just a little.
Bougier
It just depends.
Okay. All right. Well, so yeah, Ted Lasso, go watch it. For All Mankind, go watch it. Man in the High Castle, maybe watch it. Jeremy, any other shows that you're into
so
right now?
I always am weird about this because some of the shows that I recommend, like we were talking a couple weeks ago, like there's one particular character in Ted Lasso that doesn't use the best language.
That's my wife's favorite character, by the way.
And so my son, we were watching it one night because he plays soccer and it's about soccer. And like about 5 minutes in the episode, I was like, yeah, you can't watch this anymore with me. I'm sorry. So
even their chant about Roy Kent.
Yes.
You know.
So another show I just finished, I don't know if I want to recommend it, but I actually did enjoy it, was The White Lotus. A lot of people were talking about that's on HBO.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting show, kind of socially. It's an interesting show. Again, there's some stuff on there. Again, know that I'm giving you a disclaimer that it's not all great, but it's not terrible either. So The White Lotus. Now I know you said no old shows, but this is going to be a new show to a lot of people. I just rewatched from season 1 to season 6 again, Justified. If you've never seen Justified, with Raylan Givens is one of the greatest, if not the greatest TV characters ever created, him and Boyd Crowder. But I love that show. I watched it when it was on originally about 3 or 4 years ago. I watched it through again and I'm making it there. Set in Harlan County, Kentucky. It's an amazing show.
Yeah, Boyd Crowder was always my favorite. Hello, Raylan. Yeah. He just had this really weird stuff. Have you watched it, April?
I have not watched
So like
any
I said,
show
it's
that
an
you've
old
recommended.
show, but it's not a show a lot of people were familiar with, but they should be. I mean, it was amazing.
They're actually
Rebooting
coming.
it.
It's coming back.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
Yep.
Me too. April, if you want to watch, I think they sell seasons 1 through 6 at Hobby Lobby, so you can go over there and pick it up. So, what are your shows that you're into other than Hallmark?
I was gonna say, honest to goodness, like it's Hallmark or it's Parks and Rec or it's The Office. Like when I watch TV, I want to laugh.
Well, those aren't bad shows.
those are great.
They're
Those are
great
decent.
shows. So I just, nothing new though.
Okay, well, we can always recommend The Office. Hey, there's this funny thread going around on Twitter if you're into tweeting and things like that. It's what if the Office staff members had to get vaccinated? And it's just what each of their responses would be. And wherever you stand on the whole vaccination thing, that's
your business, but yeah.
But it's a funny thread. If you're a fan of The Office, it's a very funny thread, especially if you're a big fan of the show and you read it in their voices. Oh, it's very funny. Maybe we'll include a link to that in the show notes so you can.
I have a feeling that Dwight would make his own vaccination.
So my favorite one is
he was just crazy about a beeps, makes a beat vaccination.
So it shows gyms and it's like, oh yeah, I've been vaccinated for weeks. Side effects were fine or whatever. But I have been convincing Dwight, that it's turning me into a zombie. So first I just started Googling brains and now I start groaning and stuff. Yeah. And then it cuts to Dwight's and it's like, Jim Halpert is becoming a zombie. Yeah. His immune system was weak, just like him. And it's
what about Creed?
So Creed's is Kelly says something about, I didn't want to get the vaccine, but Drake got the vaccine and Drake's hot. So I got it. And I got it from Creed, but he said it was from Mexico.
I was going to say he's getting it from Korea or something like that. Yeah.
And then his just said, I gave her heroin.
Yeah. So I love Creed.
So it's very funny. Once again, wherever that's your business where you stand on the vaccine thing, but it's a funny little meme going around. So, what's up with the pumpkin spice latte? Hey,
that's what I'm drinking right now.
Oh, it's terrible.
No, it is not terrible, Jeremy.
It's horrible.
It is amazing.
So there's like this whole industry of pumpkin spice everything.
Yes.
And there's been backlash against it.
As there should be.
No, there should not be.
Okay, so I'm kind of, I don't care either way, but I've got somebody on both ends of the spectrum here. So go ahead and defend it, April, and then we'll let Jeremy.
It's an amazing beverage. So you think about fall and the leaves, which is my absolute favorite season. Crisp morning air. It's amazing flavor.
Okay. All right, here's my beef. All right. What is pumpkin spice? Number one. Now, I know what it is. It's pumpkin with some spices.
Right.
Anything you have to add a bunch of spices to make it palatable, like what's the point? Why would you want that in your coffee?
Because it's amazing. You have cinnamon, you have nutmeg, you have
right. So put cinnamon and nutmeg in your coffee.
Well, you kind of do that.
Can you even taste the pumpkin?
Oh my gosh, yes, Jeremy.
What does the pumpkin taste like?
Take a drink.
I do it. I've had them.
Okay, so I make incredible pumpkin spice cupcakes. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
they are amazing. So, and this tastes a little bit like them.
Okay,
I will say I do like pumpkin pie.
I love pumpkin pie.
One day a year, Thanksgiving. put a ton of whipped cream on it. I'll eat it. It's good.
I guess
I don't want it in my coffee.
I do enjoy a good PSL.
Yes.
But when I go to Starbucks in this time of year, I will order it as a PSL because I think it's funny that because I'm a basic white guy, I guess.
Yeah.
But so there's this article that it's about a year old at this point, but it's from Vox, and it talks about this notion of why do people hate pumpkin spice lattes, and it's funny that you said something about it's the crisp air because they actually make fun of people who are like it means I can wear flannel and talk about crisp air and things like that.
Sweatshirts, hoodies.
But I understand why they do it because they made over $100 million on it in one season last year. So it's
there's got to be like a conspiracy with Starbucks and pumpkin farmers. Like somewhere along the way, there had to be like some type of like, hey, we have a bunch of pumpkins we can't sell.
Well, they recently, I think it was 5, maybe 6 years ago, started adding real pumpkin to their actual pumpkin spice. So I make my own homemade pumpkin spice lattes.
Oh, of course you do.
Of course I do. That's right. And I add canned pumpkin, pure canned pumpkin, Jeremy, all the yummy spices, and it's amazing.
So this is a quote from that Vox article. It says that a year ago when we were talking about this, so this would have been in 2019, we described the PSL as a, quote, unctuous, pungent, saccharine brown liquid, equal parts dairy and diabetes, served in paper cups and guzzled down by the liter. I think that's a pretty good description.
No, I don't.
Honestly, I think that they're not terrible. I would not order it. Like if someone gave me one, I would drink it because I like coffee, but I would never order it. I don't, it's not for my palate. It's not great. It tastes weird to me. I think it's the thing that part of the reason is how crazy people go over it. And it's not like life changing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's it's just,
I think it goes.
I do like pumpkin pie, but
it's the attachment to fall, which is pretty much.
But it's September.
Well, they actually started in August.
That's right.
It's even worse.
That's what I have right now. I've had one last week too.
Oh well, all right.
So, but according to this article, it goes a lot deeper than that. It actually goes to a whole lot of like social issues of why people hate it, and I actually think they're reading too much into it.
Yeah,
like Leah sent me this. My wife Leah, she sent me this thing that somebody posted about. It's like, when you are hating on PSLs, you're actually hating on all these things, and it's like. But are we
no, I don't like, I think one of the things that frustrates me with them, and I don't know about Starbucks, they probably perfected it, but I know at the other coffee shop I used to go to, when they order it, it takes forever to make them. And so that makes my coffee take longer, and you get 25 people ordering pumpkin spice lattes. It just, I don't know. It's not the end of the world. It's just not my cup of tea, and people go crazy over it, and I don't get it.
But I don't think it's about the flavor because there are far worse flavored things out there. Like there's this article they link to it actually. There's a shop in Scotland that sells mayonnaise flavored ice cream.
That's so gross.
I think that actually sounds pretty good.
Oh my gosh.
There's a great place in Germantown in Louisville called Monarch. And they sell this stuff called war fries. Yeah, war fries. And it's peanut butter and mayonnaise and garlic. And it sounds horrible. It's unbelievable. So shout out to Monarch if you like.
I mean, mayonnaise is eggs and vinegar mixed together, right? So think about this. Just talk through the science of it. Almost everything you bake has eggs and vinegar in it.
That's true.
So, mayonnaise.
Eggs, maybe not vinegar. That's a little stretch.
Well, that's true.
Maybe if you're Scottish.
Yeah. I like vinegar. I like the bitterness of it.
Yeah, me too.
So, and the acidity.
All right. So just wanted to give a quick update on one of our stories or ideas from the last podcast, which is all about aliens and UFOs. And we heard back from a lot of you that a lot of you do think there is life out there, which, I guess go Mulder and Scully and go search for the truth with April because she clearly believes.
No, I do not.
I think it's one of those things too. When you give people permission to say they believe that aliens exist, like they come out of the woodwork. Like I think it's again, like I said, I'm not either saying they do or don't. I'm just open to the possibility they could. But I think there's some people that are like hardcore, like they're there or they're there among us already.
Yeah, and what's even scarier is that 65%, according to an article from Live Science or Live Science, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. Either way, 65% of Americans believe that extraterrestrials exist. That's not just a small one. That's not 51%. That's not 50.5%. That is a large portion of the population that believes in Aliens.
And I think part of that could be too, though. I mean, you think about television and movies. I mean, there are a lot of TV shows and movies with aliens in them. And as we know, people will just believe kind of sometimes whatever they think might be, and so when you're inundated with that in pop culture, then the logical conclusion is, well, yeah, maybe they do exist. I mean, what's more scary is 65% believe in aliens, 80% think that pumpkin spice lattes taste good. And so I think that we've got a little bit of a...
It's all a conspiracy.
It's all a conspiracy.
Who's your favorite alien, April?
Okay, so Iron Giant by far.
The Iron Giant?
Yes, my kids, it just brings back a lot of great memories of watching movies with them.
Is the Iron Giant an alien?
I thought he was a robot.
I thought he was a robot.
Okay, fair. Robot. Okay.
Well, that's coming up later on.
I don't believe in aliens, so I couldn't even tell you.
E.T.? Did you like E.T.?
What about Alf?
Alf?
I did love Alf. Yes, that's a good one. Okay, Alf is my favorite.
Even though he'd eat cats?
Yep, I love Alf.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's yours, Jeremy?
Favorite alien? I'm going to go old school. I mean, I like Predator.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the Predator.
Aaron likes Predator too.
I'm a Yoda fan.
Oh,
so
yeah. Well,
Can't Baby Yoda or Grogu, the Star Wars haters I like lovers
Predator.
will hate on me. Yeah.
I've never seen Star Wars.
I would like to see Predator versus Alf.
They did Predator versus Alien, but Predator versus Alf. I mean, I don't think it would be a fight. I mean, Alf would just
die. Yeah. Well, I'd still watch it. All right. So in not such good news, Hurricane Ida in New Orleans and now New York and New Jersey. They said over half of the subway systems in New York and New Jersey are inaccessible because of the flooding. And so I don't know. I mean, it's pretty rough. It feels like 2005 all over again with Katrina, and it actually hit New Orleans like on the anniversary of Katrina.
Yep.
Well, and there was a big flood in New York a couple of years ago too, wasn't there? I can't remember the exact
Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah, but it hit it pretty hard too. I remember that.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. But there are a lot of people that they said still don't have power, and they don't know when they're going to be able to get power restored. And I love the city of New Orleans. I've been there many times. There's no amount of money you could pay me to live there.
Yeah.
But no, it is a really cool city to visit.
Yeah. We know several. I mean, my brother-in-law, he's from New Orleans.
Yeah. We got people from church that have family down in Louisiana and New Orleans and stuff. But yeah, it is a neat city.
Yeah. And so if you're wanting to help with efforts to restore things down in New Orleans, we encourage you to check out the American Red Cross. They've got a very trustworthy system in place to help things like that. So on a more interesting note, not more interesting, but just a different note, a cheerier note, Val Kilmer has been in the news a lot lately, and there's a documentary about him on Amazon Prime, which I have not gotten to see yet.
I've seen it.
Seen it?
It's really good.
So the Val Kilmer, who was Iceman in Top Gun, he's going to be Iceman again.
More importantly, he was Doc Holliday in Tombstone.
Yeah, I'll be a Huckleberry.
That was one of my favorite characters of all time.
Yeah, he was Batman in Batman Forever.
I didn't care for that one.
Yeah, he wasn't very good.
Top Gun was the best.
Well, they're doing the sequel, Maverick, next year. It was supposed to be this year, but it's going out next year, and he is returning. But a few years back, Val Kilmer was diagnosed with throat cancer and lost his voice. He's almost unrecognizable from his earlier days of Hollywood. But as an actor, losing his voice has been really detrimental to his career and being able to do anything. But there is a company that he has been working with. It's a British company called Sonantic, Sonantic. And they have worked with Val Kilmer to recreate his voice using AI, artificial intelligence. And I have the clip here. You can find it on YouTube, but I'm going to play it. Everything you're about to hear is computer generated. This is not Val Kilmer speaking, even though it's Val Kilmer speaking. Listen to this.
We all have the capacity to be creative. We're all driven to share our deepest dreams and ideas with the world. When we think of the most talented creative people, they speak to us in a unique way. A phrase we often hear is having a creative voice. But I was struck by throat cancer. After getting treated, my voice as I knew it was taken away from me. People around me struggle to understand me when I'm talking. But despite all that, I still feel I'm the exact same person. Still the same creative soul. The soul that dreams ideas and stories constantly. But now I can express myself again. I can bring these dreams to you and show you this part of myself once more. A part that was never truly gone. Just hiding away.
Anyway, so that was, I mean, that's incredible because
Yes.
it's, if you would have just told me that that's just a recording of him speaking, I would have accepted that. But I mean,
really neat.
artificial intelligence, I mean, it's kind of getting scary.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's exciting, but it's also very scary.
Yeah. So I want to know what Jeremy thinks about this. And we started a new little segment last podcast called "What Does Jeremy Think?" And so we're going to ask Jeremy, with AI getting smarter all the time, there's actually this theory that we're living in a simulation. It's a fringe theory, but that we're living in simulation and that we are all.
Is it called The Matrix?
Well, it's based on that actually.
Okay.
And that
Have you seen The Matrix, April?
I have. Thank you very much.
Just
Yeah.
making sure.
All right. So, but are we living in a simulation? And if we are, does that just mean that God is like our coder? Let's hear what
does Jeremy think?
I mean, this is a difficult one. I mean, I could get real theological real quick, but then we don't have time for all of my thoughts about that. But no, I mean, I don't think that. I do admit that for me personally, I think AI is pretty fascinating. That we've been able to do what we've been able to do, create. I mean, the Val Kilmer thing is one thing. We can talk about all of the good that AI has done in the world. There obviously is some concerns that eventually I was at a conference and they were talking about the idea that the intelligence that we're creating used to be on pace with our understanding of the world, but now artificial intelligence is actually outpacing us. Does that make sense? And so that's a little bit like, well, what do you mean it's outpacing us? But anyway, as far as the God question, I mean, I think, I guess where we're kind of going with this is everything predetermined or
do we have free will or are we just coded?
Yeah. So, I mean, the big language for that, for people who don't know, would be like Calvinism and Arminianism. The idea that everything's predestined and predetermined versus the idea that we have free will as people. I tend to camp out pretty hard in the Arminian world. I'm not really an Arminian in this theological sense, but I mean, that understanding of it, I think that we do have free will. I think the Bible, from my perspective, points us towards free will. I mean, I could give you, if you want, all kinds of kind of examples of that. I do think that God has a plan. One of my professors one time said that, he believes in the plan, not the man, which means that God has a plan for how the world is supposed to operate. He has a plan of salvation. He has a plan for what's going to happen. But then how we interact with that plan is up to us. And I think what's fascinating is how God throughout the scripture, but even throughout past the scripture, how he works within human history. Does that make sense? And
Absolutely.
So I think that's the fascinating thing, is that God has this idea of what he wants to see. And then we are invited to participate in that and we get to choose that. And so, no, I mean, there's all kinds of examples. I mean, I think the story starts with the choice of Adam and Eve. People will be like, okay, they chose, they were tempted. Well, yeah, we're tempted all the time, but at the end of the day, we're the ones that choose it. I think we need to stop blaming the devil for everything. I mean, we're the ones that choose that thing to do those things, good or bad. I think that's a big part of it. And so I think there is a choice. I think the story begins with that, whether there was literally a tree. I mean, and even the tree, it's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It's the tree that they're eating from, whether they're going to do good or they're going to do evil, and the knowledge of that. Now, whether it was a literal tree or that's a figurative idea, I don't know. I mean, I have my views, but we're not into that right now. But that is the idea of they now, because mankind and Adam and Eve being representative of man, they're now eating of something that gives them the choice of to do good or to do evil. And we see very early on in the story, I mean, one of the most depressing chapters of the Bible, Genesis 6, if you're familiar with it, it's the part where God looks at man and sees how evil it is. And the scripture actually says that he was sad in his heart that he had made us. And that was all because of the choices that people were making, and then obviously God intervenes and all this stuff. So, I mean, we could give example after example, but I don't want to ramble on forever. But I do think it's the choice that we have. We have the choice whether we're going to be a part of God's kingdom and what he's doing, or we have the choice not to. And so, no, I think there's free will. I think evil is the bigger thing there, is that if God is good, then we have a problem if we don't allow free will into that. Does that make sense? Because then we're saying that God is choosing, these type of things versus he is allowing us to have free will, and we just happen to be the ones that are being tempted and choosing to do the wrong thing. And we could go through case through example of history, but we don't have time for that. But I mean, there, and like I said, if anybody wants to talk further about that, I'm not going to get into the Calvinism Arminian debate with most people, but I will talk about that idea of, and I do believe this, and I say it all the time, we have the choice every day of who we're becoming, and we are becoming people that are making the world a better place or not. And we have the choice of whether we're getting more in line with who God thinks and wants us to be, or we're not. And so that's the choice that we have every day. And so, yeah, I don't think everything's pre-programmed. I don't think everything's predetermined, every single thing. But I do think that God has a plan for us, and, it's us getting in line with that and choosing to allow that to be a part of our lives.
Now, this is even more important. Will there be a robot uprising?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think that's one of those things that, it goes back to the alien thing, like, okay, this guy, when I'm in this conference in Los Angeles, he's talking about how artificial intelligence is outpacing our understanding of artificial intelligence.
Right.
I've seen the Terminator movies. And so, I mean, who knows? I mean, it is kind of crazy, some of the stuff. Have you seen the like, especially in like Japan, those robots they're creating over there that like can think and do things on their own? I mean,
Well, have you seen the new Tesla robots?
I have not.
So what I love about them though is they created them that to be easily overpowered or outrun by humans. They can only reach like a max speed of 4.5 miles an hour, and they can only lift like 40 to 50 pounds. And it's supposed to be like something to help you around the house. But
so yeah, as long as we always are building in like a shutdown, a shutdown of those things, and as long as we control the energy, like if we give the, if whoever's listening to this, do not give the robots the power to control energy, because we can always shut that down.
Yeah, Elon Musk.
Yeah, but please do not give that to artificial intelligence where they control the energy and batteries and all that stuff, because then we might be in trouble.
Yes, big time.
So who's your favorite robot? Well, you already answered that.
That's
you said
right,
it's the Iron Giant. Okay.
But we've watched Terminator, I will say, because Jeremy mentioned it like twice this week. So it's my husband's absolute
favorite. You watched
it
twice this week?
Well, okay, yes, twice. Well, it would be twice this week. So
you've watched Terminator
He watched,
twice.
There's like what, 3 or 4?
There's like 100 of them.
Yeah,
Okay, so they've
7.
watched 2 of them. Okay, so yeah, Jaden really wanted to watch them, and so Aaron wanted to be present when he watches them. So
Arnold Terminator or
Aaron
Robert Patrick Terminator?
No, Aaron is a diehard Arnold.
Isn't there a girl one too?
Oh yeah, and Terminator 17.
I don't know. There's a girl at some point,
but
it's interesting because it's you're like, gosh, we're seeing this. When Terminator came out, you were like, there's no way that's ever going to happen.
So when Terminator 2 came out, I was a kid, and it terrified me because in the movie they talk about this event being Judgment Day, which is essentially when the robots take over and nuclear holocaust kills the world. And it was on my birthday. It was August 14th of like 1998. And so as a kid, I was like, the world is going to end on my birthday.
I think we're a long way from, if there is an uprising, there being one. I think Terminator, the bigger problem with Terminator for me is not the artificial intelligence. It's the time travel thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the part where I'm like, I've studied a lot. I mean, there's obviously time travel is still a long way away from us even being able to, I mean, there's movies and stuff, but that's not happening anytime, probably in the next 100 years.
Yeah. You can't just jump in a DeLorean and go to 1955.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my favorite robot, if I had to pick one, would be C-3PO. So I'm just into Star Wars today. Yoda and Grogu and C-3PO. What about you, Jeremy?
R2-D2. So another one. I love R2-D2. And then Optimus Prime.
Oh, he's a good one. Robbie the Robot. You like Robbie the Robot?
I don't even know who Robbie the Robot is.
And I do love T-800.
He is a good one.
Do you know who T-800 is?
No.
April?
Is this Star Wars stuff?
No, that's Arnold.
That's the Terminator.
Oh, okay.
You just said you watched it twice this week.
Well, but I don't pay attention. Aaron's watching it with the kids. I'm just in the living room.
T-800 is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay, there you have it.
All right. So a lot going on here at Journey. We'll fill you in on that before we get into our main story. This weekend, it is Labor Day. We are going to have one service at 10:30. So don't show up at 10. Don't show up at 11:15. You'll be super early or really late. We are going to have hot dogs for you as you are leaving. So we'll have them being, I think Jeremy's grilling them.
Yeah, I'm going to be grilling some hot dogs.
And so grab one.
And sausages.
Ooh, very good. So grab one on your way out the door as you go home or take a nap or whatever you do on a Sunday afternoon. Our small group ministry, I want to clear something up here, and I want to apologize for the confusion. We are using a new software system to do signups, and so we were not really ready for that system like I thought we were, and that's on me. So what we're doing is we're turning the sign up process off, except for on Sundays. And on Sundays, we will walk you through that process in person, or I'm actually going to talk about it from the stage this week a little bit. But reach out to myself, reach out to Jeremy, reach out to April, or anybody else on staff here, and we will do everything we can to help you connect to a small group, which we're calling packs.
Yeah, and I think the important thing we want to mention while kind of we had the issue this week is, part of it was user error.
Sure.
It's just we want to make sure we want to give groups the best chance to survive, which means, you have to take into consideration child, where they live, and personalities is a big part of it too. And so we want to give that the best chance to survive. So we want to help connect you to groups that we think will do well. And so we're just kind of revisiting that and trying to make sure that we start this the right way. But
so email me at rusty@journeyshepardsville.com and we'll help you out, find you a good pack to be a part of. Fall Fest is coming up September 30th. That's a Thursday. The rain date on that is the following Thursday. I don't have that date in front of me right now.
Well, it's not going to rain because it's easier just to get over with the first time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. So there is a rain date. We would love for
September 14th.
September 14th, so 2 weeks later. We would love
October 14th.
October 14th.
Unless we're doing time travel.
We just talked about it. So October 14th is rain date, but we're hoping it'll take place September 30th. Please share that information with your friends. Invite them. It is a good time. Your friends will have fun. It is not a church thing. We are putting it on, but it's just a good time for people to come out. There's vendors, there's stuff for the kids. There's going to be food trucks, really good food trucks. And so we want you guys to come out and just have fun for a couple of hours. Come and go as you please. You just don't have to stay the whole time or anything like that. I do know we need volunteers for that as well. And so if you don't attend Journey, don't worry about it. But if you attend Journey and are interested in volunteering with set up and tear down, or volunteering during the event, I know that there's a form you can fill out on the app and on Facebook as well. So make sure and do that. But we're really looking forward to it. It's just a fun time for us here at the church, but also to do that for our community and show them we love them and care.
And then one last thing, we're sad that we have to announce this, but we are postponing our Dominican Republic trip. It was supposed to happen in October, and with COVID on the rise and the regulations around quarantining if you get sick while outside of the United States, we just thought it was the wisest option to just postpone that trip. So we are still going. If you have donated to that trip, that money is still going to be used towards the trip. We're looking at a date in March of 2022. So that's still up ahead of us, but continue to pray for us as we work through that. Continue to pray for our partners down in the Dominican Republic. Okay, so for our main topic, this is a heavy one. This is not a lighthearted one, and it's one that has affected everybody in this country. The war in Afghanistan is officially over, and with that, the U.S. stands to see a large influx of Afghan refugees and asylum seekers, and I think we need to ask the question of what our response as Christian people should be to refugees, to people seeking asylum. So, Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
I think the first thing before getting into the actual Afghanistan thing, I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about what refugees and people seeking asylum actually is. Do not get your sources from Facebook or anything like that. Actually look into it. There are some great ministries, even here in Louisville, that will be glad to educate you on what refugees actually are, the process, how difficult it actually is. I think a lot of people just think that, because we think about illegal immigration, we're like, people are just going to come over, and no, that is not where refugees are. And people seeking asylum, like there's standards they have to, and they are vetted, most of them. And so it is not the same thing. Do not believe that it is the same thing. And just make sure you're educating yourself before you make an opinion. I think when I went to, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but there's a refugee ministry over there off of, it's in a church, and this is terrible because I'm recommending it, but we actually went and visited as a church staff and learned a lot from them just about the process and how difficult it is for these people. And so I would say before you make any opinions about anything, educate yourself actually on what refugees and people seeking asylum actually is. When it comes to this particular issue, and I don't want to give a lot of, I think one of the things I always wrestle with is I'm a citizen of the United States of America. I think it's the greatest country in the world because I live here. I mean, there might be other ones and people might disagree. I think we have amazing freedoms. I think we've been given amazing opportunity. And so that is part of my identity. I will protect our freedoms. I will stand for the freedoms of other people. But that is not my first position I identify myself as. The first position I identify myself as is a resident of the kingdom of God. And so I always try to make sure, even on, issues like this, that I'm addressing it first as someone who is a child of God and recognizing that these people are children of God. And then second, how do I feel about it as a U.S. citizen? And so I think that's where I always try to filter things through. And that often puts me at odds with a lot of people I care about. And I would even say it puts me at odds sometimes with people that are Christians, because that is not often the first question they ask. And so I think that's the other thing I want to say is just make sure as we're filtering information that, and I spoke about this on Sunday, to an extent. I mean, I can't speak into how a lot of people feel about a lot of issues. I can give some input as if you're going to try to be a follower of Christ, what's been asked of us. And I think there's a lot of verses. I mean, I don't have time to get into all of them. There's a lot of verses. You should just look it up about inviting the stranger in and refugees and caring for them. Jesus specifically talks about what you've done for the least of these. And, once you understand what these people are going through, whether you agree with their religious background or identities as things, I mean, these are the least of these right now. I mean, they have nothing and everything has been stripped from them. And so I think that's really important to make sure that we're filtering everything through those understandings before we come off with just an emotional response to it. Because we all have responses to it. And there's a lot of concerns with it. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I am a U.S. citizen and there's some concerns I have, but I want to address it first as a child of God and recognizing them as the same.
I love how he said that because I think that's so important. Again, just like Jeremy, we love our country. We love our freedoms, but at the same time, we have to look first at, we're addressing it from, like he said, the kingdom of God and not just I'm a U.S. citizen. So, yeah.
And I think a way to look at that is, are you a Christian American or an American Christian?
Yes, I love that.
What are you putting as the primary identifier of who we are? And that doesn't mean that we're not both.
Right.
But if it comes between my faith in Christ versus my feelings as an American citizen, we're called scripturally to put Christ and his kingdom first. And that's difficult. That's a struggle because oftentimes the following in the way of Jesus requires us to deny ourselves what we want. Right?
Absolutely.
And I think that you're dead on, Jeremy. We have to operate out of compassion. We have to operate out of, I have lived in another part of the world and people want to come here because it is such a great place that offers so much freedom and opportunity. And are we perfect? Of course not. We're not perfect. No nation is perfect.
Right.
But having lived somewhere else, I moved back for a reason, that it was the best place I could put my family in.
Well, I think one thing I learned when talking to these refugee ministries is a lot of these people, and this was because there is a great country and great opportunity. They don't want to be here. They're here because they don't have another choice.
Yeah, right.
Because to go back to where they came from is death. And so a lot of them, we think of everybody wants to live in America. No, not everybody wants to live in America. A lot of these people, they don't have another choice and they're seeking asylum, especially the ones. And I think one of the crazier parts of the story is all of these people. And if you don't think this has happened before, you should study history because it's happened with the Vietnam War too. You have a lot of people that helped America and were sympathizers and wanted democracy over there and did not want the Taliban to take back over. And so they were allies of ours. And now that we're pulled out, they don't have anywhere else to turn. And so now they've helped us and they've helped themselves in helping us. Don't get me wrong when I say that, but they've helped. And now it's like, well, what do we do with these people that are fearing for their life because they know that they helped us. You know what I'm saying?
And their families'
and
lives.
their families'
Right.
lives. And so I think there's a lot you have to factor in before you just go, nope. You know, I think that, yeah, I mean, I have friends that are in the military. We have a lot of military around here because of access to Fort Knox. I have a friend that was in Afghanistan for years as a chaplain, and he just collected a bunch of money trying to get his buddies, you know, his interpreters and people that he worked with over here, because now they're fearing for their lives and their families' lives. And he's literally just raising money himself. And I don't want to get into that whole thing, but I mean, that's just crazy, you know? I mean, and these people are reaching out and saying, hey, we don't know if we're going to live very much longer, you know?
Yeah. And wherever you stand, I mean, on the political spectrum of things, that's not really what we're talking about here. It's really more about just compassion for other human beings created in the image of God. And that's what we have to remember. And I think you did a good job of saying this, Jeremy, that it doesn't matter that they're Muslim.
Right.
It doesn't matter if they're atheist or agnostic or Jewish or, you know, whatever religion they ascribe to, they are still created in the image of God.
Yes.
And they are valuable and they have dignity. And sometimes it's easy to forget that.
And not to be scared.
Yeah. One of the things I had to educate myself on this week or a couple weeks ago, was in Afghanistan, you can only register as a Muslim. And so that's why 99.8% of the country is Muslim. They don't know how many Christians are in Afghanistan. And not that matters. Don't get me wrong. Like, to your point, Rusty, we should care about these people because they're people. But the reality is, you know, people are like, oh, they're all, well, no, we don't even know that. You're only allowed to register as that. They're not allowed to register as anything else. And so that's why it's a Muslim country. So regardless of politics, regardless of religion, these are people, and we need to ask ourselves some serious questions, you know. And I think, you know, the Bible in Leviticus talks about this idea that we were all once immigrants in a foreign land, and a 7-nation army, Jack White says, and you were immigrants too. And we were. I mean, everybody was an immigrant at some point, not us literally, but our families and stuff like that. And so we need to take all of that into consideration before we say things, post things, respond. Just educate yourself and make sure you know what you're saying and feeling. And it's not just an emotional response.
Yeah. And as Christian people, you're representative of the kingdom of God. And so if people, you know that you are a Christian person, but then you don't act like a Christian person
Right.
outwardly, it can really be confusing to people who are not Christians.
Yeah.
Or unfortunately clarifying for people who aren't Christians. Like, oh, that's not what I want to be a part of.
Yeah.
So.
And I was going to say too, just going back to not being scared, because we had a Muslim neighbor in our neighborhood. And she was one of the most amazing people that I've ever known. She would bring us different meals that they make in their country, you know what I'm saying, all the time, down for dinner and stuff. And she is just the sweetest person ever. And so we would have conversations all the time. We were both obviously of different faiths. But, you know, she'd come down and celebrate Christmas with us. And, you know, you just got to get to know people. And like my shirt says, really just love like Jesus. And God is not just God of the United States. I think that's important to remember. He loves everybody. So
You had to bring in your Hobby Lobby shirt.
She did.
It's not Hobby Lobby.
I cannot wait for this game. Yeah, I cannot wait for this game, because the deal is, if she's off the podcast, if I win, she has to wear the shirt that I pick out on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I don't know.
How do you feel about Rob Zombie?
I don't even know who Rob Zombie is.
Perfect.
Oh my gosh.
That's
I don't know that I'm
awesome.
okay with this, Rusty.
A shout out to my good friend Sam Lucero. She just bought some artwork. So you know this Live, Laugh, Love thing. She bought some artwork off of Etsy that was Die, Cry, Hate. Instead of Live, Laugh, Love, it was Die, Cry, Hate. And I thought that was pretty funny.
I love Sam.
I don't know where she's going to hang that, but I hope it's right in their entryway. Anyway, let's wrap up for the day. Thanks for joining us. Look for us drop another podcast in a couple of weeks. Otherwise, we will see you soon. Thanks for having us, or thanks for being here, or whatever. I'm going to be quiet now.
I like that ending.
I do too.